I used to be a creature of the night. Most nights, around 11:30 p.m., after the rest of my family had finally settled in and the suburban street outside went quiet, that's when I'd find my rhythm. I'd sit up, the cool glow of my laptop screen illuminating my small corner of the world, either lost in a game or catching up on shows I'd missed. My dad was the same. We were the family night owls, two solitary souls finding peace in the stillness. I remember this one particular night. The rain was drumming a steady, almost comforting rhythm against my bedroom window. It was the kind of rain that makes you appreciate being warm and dry inside. Around 12:15 a.m., I decided to take a break. I stretched, the silence of the house pressing in slightly, and headed towards the kitchen. The linoleum was cold under my bare feet. I was focused on the simple task of getting a drink of water. That's when I heard it. A sound so soft, so deliberate, it seemed to cut through the rain. Tink, a single metallic chime, like a spoon hitting a glass. I froze, hand hovering over the faucet. I held my breath, listening. Nothing, just the rain. I'm just tired, I thought, imagining things. I turned the water on, the sound a relief, but then I turned it off again. I couldn't help it. I had to know. Tink, another one. This time it was clear. It came from the direction of the back door, the sliding glass one that led out to our deck. The air in the kitchen suddenly felt colder. We had a large, gnarled oak tree in the backyard, its branches occasionally brushing against the eaves, but this wasn't that. This was different, a conscious action. The ticking sound gets faster. The music shifts to a minor key. My heart started to pound. I crept towards the living room, a space that always felt so much bigger and emptier in the dark. I didn't turn any lights on. Our house had this old, slightly temperamental alarm system that we never used, but it had this chime feature. Whenever a door or window with a sensor was opened, it would beep. I wished it was armed. I made it to the edge of the living room, peering towards the sliding door. All I could see were deep, shifting shadows. The rain made a weird pattern on the glass, almost like tear streaks. Tink, tink, tink. A rapid-fire sequence now. The sound of metal on glass. Was someone testing it, trying to find a weak spot? Fear, a cold, sharp thing, settled in my stomach. I was alone in the main part of the house. Everyone else was asleep. If I screamed, would they even hear me? Then it stopped. The silence that followed was heavy. I stayed there in the shadows, my eyes straining, every muscle in my body tense. I have to check, a part of me whispered. I have to see. I took a deep, shaky breath and forced myself to take a step, then another. I moved slowly, making sure not to make a sound on the hardwood floor. I reached the sliding door. My hand was shaking as I slowly parted the heavy curtains. The view of the deck was blocked by the rain. I squinted, trying to make out any shapes. Nothing. It was just a blur of dark and wet. Maybe it was a bird, I thought, a desperate hope. Maybe a bat got confused by the reflection. But then I saw it. On the wooden railing of the deck, a tiny flickering light. Not a flashlight, a match. It flared for a second, then went out. In that brief moment, I saw a shape. Not clearly, but enough to know it was human.
A person was standing on our deck in the pouring rain in the middle of the night. They weren't moving. They were just waiting.
The match went out, plunging the figure back into the wet, oppressive darkness of the deck. But that second of light, it had changed everything. It wasn't a shadow. It wasn't my imagination. It was a person. I stood frozen in the living room, gripping the heavy curtain, my breath catching in my throat. I couldn't move, couldn't make a sound. The rain seemed to be getting louder, a drumbeat of panic. My eyes strained against the black glass. Are they still there? Did they see me? The pulsating drone gets slightly faster, with high-pitched violin screeches added at random intervals. Then came the new sound. Chink, chink, chink. Slow, heavy, and metallic. It wasn't the light tink from before. It was the sound of something metal scraping against the sliding door's locking mechanism. My brain finally kicked into gear. It was like a jolt of electricity. I'm alone. If they force the door, I'm the first thing they'll see. My parents were upstairs, asleep. My younger sister was in the next room. They wouldn't even hear me scream over the rain. I had to get to them. I had to wake them up. The high-pitched violin screeches become a constant, frantic scratching sound. I let go of the curtain and turned to run. I didn't care about making noise now. I ran through the kitchen, the linoleum cold and slick under my bare feet. I scrambled for the stairs, my knees weak. As I started climbing, I heard a louder, grinding sound from downstairs, like metal being bent. They're getting closer. I made it to my parents' door. I didn't knock. I didn't whisper. I burst inside. "Mom! Dad! Wake up! There's someone on the deck! They're trying to break in!" My voice was raw. It felt foreign to me. My dad woke instantly, the adrenaline overriding his usual sleepiness. He was a small man, but in that moment he looked bigger, fiercer. "What?" said he, voice rough. "Are you sure?" "Yes, I saw them. They lit a match." He was already moving, pulling on his robe. He reached for the baseball bat he kept in the corner. The screeching scratches stop. The low drone becomes a single, heavy bass vibration. I followed him downstairs, my heart still in my mouth. My mom was right behind us, her face pale. We didn't turn any lights on. We didn't want to show them where we were. We reached the kitchen. My dad crept towards the living room, the baseball bat held tight. He stopped at the edge of the room, listening. The rain was the only sound. "Maybe they ran," a tiny hopeful voice whispered. "Maybe they heard me." The heavy bass vibration gets slower, almost fading away. My dad took a slow step towards the sliding door. He pulled the heavy curtains back. The rain made a blur of everything. He squinted, trying to see anything. "I don't see anything," he said, a voice-hushed whisper. "They were right here," I said, my voice shaking. "I saw the match." He slowly reached for the door handle. It was locked. He checked the mechanism. "The lock is weird," he said, sounding confused. "It's been tampered with. There are scratches." He slowly unlocked and slid the door open, the bat raised. The cool, wet air rushed in. The deck was empty, just the gnarled oak tree branches swaying in the rain. The drone cuts to a high-pitched, sustained ringing sound. But then my dad looked down. On the wet wooden floor of the deck, right in front of the sliding door, was a single used matchbook, and next to it, it was a small, perfectly formed pentagram drawn in what looked like charcoal. The ringing sound gets louder, sharper. My dad slowly pulled his hand back, as if the air was toxic. He looked up at the gnarled oak tree, then out at the blurry, wet backyard. They weren't trying to break in, he whispered. They were marking it. I stared at the matchbook and the pentagram, the chilling words sinking in. We called the police. They arrived about 15 minutes later, their blue lights a shocking sight in our quiet neighborhood. They checked the house, the backyard, the street. They didn't find anyone. They said it was probably just kids playing a prank, some stupid dare. But I knew. The memory of that solitary match, the silent waiting, the deliberate scraping, it was too calculated. It wasn't a game. We stayed awake all night, all the lights in the house on. My dad sat by the sliding door with the baseball bat, his face set in a grim expression. The next day, we had a security system installed. We added new locks. We cut back the gnarled oak tree branches. But I never felt safe in that house again. The silence of the night, once my sanctuary, was now a threat. Every creak, every brush of the wind made my heart skip a beat. I never forgot the sound of the metal on the glass, the single chime that cut through the rain. I never forgot the matchbook or the pentagram. We moved out of that house 6 months later, and to this day, I still don't answer the door at night unless I know exactly who's coming. I never open the curtains. I never leave the lights off in the main part of the house. Because I know that out there, in the pouring rain, in the deepest shadows, someone might still be waiting. Someone might still be watching. Someone might still be marking the spots.